Let's go to Stephen, who's with us now. Stephen Kent. Hey, Stephen.
Glenn, good morning.
Do you have any insight on what's going to happen? They're bringing Rey and Kylo together to create balance. Is this going to be a preachy movie? What's happening?
Well, Star Wars is always at its best when it's a little bit preachy. I mean, it's never not had a message since it began. But again, like what to expect? The movies supposedly ended in 1983, and then they ended again in 2015. And now here we are. They're ending supposedly again in 2019. We've been talking about this, you and I, since 2016. I got to say, my anxiety is pretty high, and my expectations are just kind of all over the place.
So do you who's directing this?
This is J.J. Abrams again, who took over The Force Awakens when it was rebooted. He did a good job.
He did.
He made people feel comfortable with this being a reboot of Star Wars or a continuation of that story. I think it's a nice, safe pick that they did, and it's going to round it all down nicely.
All right, so this is not one of them that went through like 3 directors, right? J.J. Abrams been on this the whole time.
It was originally slated to be given to Colin Trevorrow, who directed the Jurassic Park sequels. And it was taken away from him for reasons that are kind of unclear, but they've just written that off to creative differences, which means that he couldn't play ball with all the high budget expectations that came with that studio.
And this is Disney owned, right?
Oh yeah. This is Disney. They're going to take us across the finish line here and try to make this all make sense. Not just these 3 movies, but all 9 of them. And you were asking about what to expect from this movie. I think the only thing that we have to go off of is the voice of Emperor Palpatine that shows up in these trailers. If you think about Star Wars and continuity, the only thing that stretches from episodes 1 all the way to 9 is Senator, then Chancellor, then Emperor Palpatine, and the actor Ian McDiarmid. So he's coming back for this final movie, and the big question is going to be, how the heck does that happen? Because he was blown to pieces in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, I hope they do another thing where he floats through space like Leia, because that really worked well, I thought.
Steven, is that the worst thing you've ever seen? They had the actress dies, they have a way for her to die, and they bring her back?
Yeah, but would you have wanted Leia to die by being sucked into a vortex in space?
Yes, I would have. In fact, there's a vortex, and I have several characters with a vortex with their name on it.
Yeah, that was an odd choice, and I personally kind of fell out of my seat at that, and I just always look away when that scene comes around in The Last Jedi because it's a little too much cheese.
Okay, so they're mixing the two, the dark force and the light. They're finding balance. Is that what we think this is going to be, where they're like, not everything is bad?
Well, when I first came onto the Blaze and talked to Pat and Stu in 2016 about The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, that's where I was at, that they were going to find a balance between the light side and the dark side and kind of do away with this holy war between the Jedi and the Sith. And then that came around to The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson basically snubbed that idea entirely and kept the status quo going. I think all indicators are still pointing towards a complete disruption of the Jedi-Sith conflict and the light and dark paradigm. And I think that's going to be pretty healthy for Star Wars going forward, if we can sort of balance out the moral imperative of having a clear light and dark and good and evil. That's the mix that they have to get right here.
So who's the Skywalker that's rising?
My opinion of this is that the Skywalker is the Force user. So that the Skywalker is going to be sort of melded into a title for people who choose to walk in the ways of the Force, study the old ways, study the history, Luke Skywalker, Anakin, all those great heroes. I think they're going to do away with these sort of religious titles that come with the Jedi and the Sith. And they're going to be just a new class of warrior, like samurais, Skywalkers. That's my personal theory. The easier answer might just be that it's Kylo Ren, because he's the only Skywalker currently living. He's currently fallen, and he could still stand back up and rise back to his family's legacy.
Tell me that you were not blown out of your shoes, shocked, when you heard that Disney did not make any Baby Yodas available for Christmas.
That was pretty stunning. It was really, really stunning. But, it kind of cuts against a couple different narratives about Disney. Are they either after the money and chasing every single dollar they can get, or are they meticulous and protective of the brand? It kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in everybody's opinions about Disney with that.
I think that they have a new mouse with Baby Yoda. That thing is so cute. It's making me watch The Mandalorian and actually continuing to give it a chance, even though the last few episodes I've been like, okay, come on, let's pick it up here. What's the story?
Yeah, we're all united and stand with Baby Yoda. It's been something our own household has enjoyed, and it's pretty remarkable to see that actually happen pretty organically, where this sort of cute creature is put into Star Wars to make everybody, kind of be able to enjoy a kid-friendly series that is otherwise pretty violent. And it's being received incredibly well.
I mean, I don't think it shows that the George Lucas impact or influence is gone, because this is the character that he always tried to find, and they have now found it.
Yeah, I suppose that is true. I know the first bungle of cute creatures was with the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi.
And they were horrible.
And when you think about the first early divisions in fandom was always quite united around Star Wars 4 and 5, that being The Empire Strikes Back. The first big rift was Return of the Jedi, and sort of the cute nature of the Ewoks and some of the narrative choices of that film. And we've been reliving that horror show of incredibly divisive Star Wars movies ever since. I have a couple theories about that myself.
Do you think maybe this is where the divide in America started?
The divide in America started
Jar
on
Binks.
Endor.
Yeah, and on Endor. Are you going to the conference this weekend for Turning Point?
I am not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I was hoping to see you there, but I guess not. So,
well, I'm sure you'll do a bang-up job.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will.
Do you have have you done this thing that everyone is doing with ranking them in the all 10 movies in order of preference? Steve?
Yeah, I feel like I've done it every 2 years, and at this point I'm tired of throwing it up there. But Return of the Jedi has always been my number one, since we actually just discussed that, and then Revenge of the Sith Episode 3 as my number 2.
Those are both incorrect, just to let you know.
Yeah,
I've never heard a correct answer when it comes to Star Wars, and that's just kind of the fun generational nature of this saga. Every group and cohort of generations have their own preferences when it comes to these movies, because it is their Star Wars, and that's kind of why we're all tearing each other's heads off perpetually with these movies. It's a little bit beautiful. It's also a little bit maddening.
So how do millennials stand on the first 3?
Yeah. Episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Do they feel the same way?
Yeah, elder millennials kind of fall in with Gen X with a lot of skepticism about the prequels and heavy critique. What I've seen in the past couple of years has been an incredible, not revisionist history, but sort of a fighting back by millennials about enjoying the first 3 Star Wars movies, because they were kids when they watched it. They didn't really have those blinders on about what is cheesy and what is bad acting. They just watched it, and it was Star Wars, and it was cool. So I've actually seen a huge swing back in favor of the prequels, and a lot of people readdressing those movies with a little bit more favorable light. And that's what's so funny, because apparently George Lucas destroyed everyone's childhoods with those movies. And now we're
Greta Thunberg is talking about George. Greta Thunberg is talking to George Lucas when she said, "You stole my childhood."
You stole everything from me.
Yeah, she's talking specifically about Phantom Menace. That's what she's talking about.
How dare you?
Stephen Kent, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again. Stephen Kent, spokesperson, Young Voices, and a host of Beltway Banthas podcast. All right, want to talk to you about...